Interest Free, Episode 3, Mediating Life. I'm your host, Whidbee, and on today's episode, I get to sit down with a man that's known for motivation, a man that's inspiring, a man I met in the Marine Corps, a man that has an uncanny way of, bouncing back from L's to make them dubs. On today's episode, my guy, Mike Algeo. Well,
that's an intro right there. I love it.
You got to make sure that you stand out. So, question one, professionally, what do you do?
Well, I dip my toes in quite a few things.
Okay.
So my main bread and butter is mediation.
Okay.
So I do a lot of small claims mediation. That could be fence line disputes, neighbors, they built a fence, X number of inches over the property line.
Okay.
It could be, you broke my G.I. Joe and I'm upset about it. And then what I also do is guardianships and conservatorships. So with guardianship, real quick, what guardianship is being part of a mechanism of law where you're talking about where a child goes.
Okay.
You're talking about taking someone's child away from them and potentially giving them to an extended family member or to the state. And conservatorships, where does mom go when she gets elderly? Along with that, I do drug and alcohol counseling. I'm very blessed to be able to work in a program for folks who've experienced a DUI, and they have to go through certain classes and certain face-to-face meetings with an alcohol and drug counselor, and that's where I come into play.
Okay.
And then along with that, I do some mobile notaries, and then I'm also an author of This For You, my brother, Resolute Client from Homelessness to Everest. Thank you so much.
So, what led you to your multiple career choices?
Wow. So a couple things. One with mediation. I finished law school.
Okay.
Law school was
Congratulations.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. It's been a few years. That was not smooth.
Why do you say that?
Well, I say that I finished Marine Corps.
Yes.
And it's where like you mentioned, we first met. And I applied to 3 law schools.
Okay.
I applied to Thomas Jefferson School of Law here in San Diego. Applied to UCLA and USD.
Okay.
UCLA and USD told me that hit the bricks.
Oh man.
With Thomas Jefferson took me, I'm like, all right, great. I'm going to
good.
be a lawyer. I'm going to go argue cases in front of the Supreme Court. And about after a year, I didn't make the grades.
Okay.
And then that was it. I was academically dismissed. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to try again. I went to a second law school.
Okay.
And up in Orange County. And again, what was it?
What's the name of that school?
Trinity Law School.
Okay.
And then after a year there, same deal, just could not make the grades. So I was like, I'm an unintelligent guy. How can I can't surmount this? Well, long story short, I tried for a third time.
Okay.
And I'm gonna finish this.
Yes.
Like, I don't care if I have to live in the parking lot or in the library. I'm gonna finish this. And I did. I finished on the third try for law school.
That's good.
And so then when I took the bar, I was unsuccessful with that. I'm not somebody who's unintelligent, but I don't take tests well.
Okay.
Like a lot of people.
Yes.
And I was like, you know what? I still want to be within the bounds of the law, but maybe I don't want to necessarily practice law. So I fell into mediation because they like that I have a law degree, but I don't need a law license.
Okay.
And so that's how I fell into mediation. The alcohol and drug counseling part of it was I'm the adult child of 2 parents who have experienced substance use.
Right.
I'm the only one of my brothers not to go to prison. Been arrested.
Okay.
But hey, and no convictions, no felonies, no prison. But I'm the only one of my brothers not to go to prison. My father ran a drug ring, and he spent almost 10 years in federal prison for a long period of time when I was growing up. And my mother was somebody who experienced real in-depth drug use.
Right.
And if you read the book Resolute Client, it gets a little bit more in detail as far as those instances of drug use. And so when I was getting out of the Marine Corps, I was really wondering, why do people do that? Why was she involved in intravenous drug use? Why was she involved in the things that she was involved in? And so I started taking classes. And I was a psychology major because I was trying to determine originally, well, how did she get into that? How did he get into that? How did my brothers get into that? And then I fell into alcohol and drug counseling, and I think it was my 3rd class. I was like, this is it. I'm doing this. And that's how I fell into that.
Okay. You know what's interesting to me that you wanted to know the psychology of like why things was happening. And for me, like growing up, I dealt with the drugs, I dealt with getting taken away from my mother. But instead of wanting to know why, I just accepted it, and like I knew like those were the cards that was dealt to me. So I was just gonna make the best of it. So it's interesting that you said that.
Well, it's just different. I think you took it from a more stoic perspective of it is what it is, so I'm just going to get over it.
Right.
But at the same time, I wanted to get into, maybe that's really why it's caused so many issues over the years, is that, the dichotomy of why.
Right, exactly.
How did this happen?
Right, exactly. So a typical day in the multiple careers you do. Tell me about it.
Oh man, well, being on Whidbee's podcast. For instance, I still manage to, I still prioritize sleep, I still prioritize exercise, but at the same time, it's 16-hour days, man. I mean, so and that's including gym time, and it's not like I'm just pedal to the metal every day.
Okay.
There's some days where I'm just calling people, coordinating cases, crafting an agreement, and then there are other days I'm just on with the mediation part.
Okay.
I'm just on standby. I might go to the court and explain what mediation is. One party might want to mediate, the other party might not,
Right.
and then that's roll the donut.
Okay.
And then with the alcohol and drug counseling piece, that's busy because of the DUI program that I work at. Man, we're getting up to about 4,000 participants.
Okay.
So DUIs are a significant problem, not only nationwide, statewide, but citywide, countywide in San Diego. And so, and we're one of 3 DUI programs in San Diego, and we are packed. And so that is a busy job.
Okay.
And there are some people who are getting DUIs before they even finish the DUI program. So it is.
I know people like that.
Yeah. It's just like, dude, I'm not that funny, I'm not that handsome, and I'm not that insightful. So
Okay.
why are you coming back?
So speaking on that, emotions and energy shifts, how do you deal with it, and does it affect you personally?
It did. It once did, because especially when I was doing other parts of alcohol and drug counseling or case management, and then people die, people go missing, people relapse, I thought maybe I could have done something.
Right.
And there's a lot of, again, going back to that, why I think maybe that's why our trajectories are a little bit different as we came up, is because you had that more of that acceptance.
Right.
I wanted to get more into that. Well, why? How did this happen? Something I did. Maybe if I counseled this guy a little bit more in depthly, he wouldn't have relapsed. He wouldn't have overdosed. Blah blah blah.
Right.
But at the same time, I realized that people can have to make their own determination. It's not God. It's not me. They made an adult decision to engage in a very high-risk behavior, and then there are certain consequences as a result of engaging in that behavior. So I don't take it too personally anymore.
Okay.
It's more of accepting.
Understand. So we know Superman has kryptonite, right? and you mentioned why. Do you think why is your kryptonite because you need to understand, or you want to know why this happened?
Well, I've developed more of an anti-kryptonite than
Okay.
So in that I've gotten past the asking why and gotten more into what you mentioned as far as your trajectory in terms of the acceptance part. I wanted to know, well, why did this happen? It happened, and even if I knew why, for instance, let's just say I knew why, I knew how, that wouldn't necessarily satisfy me. I was just like, well, is that really the truth? Or in the end, just more of an acceptance part. So I've gotten over that, and maybe that's why I'm at where I'm at today, is because I'm more of the accepting. Like I say, something now, why? Because I still wouldn't maybe accept that.
Exactly, I understand. So this is the part that I've been waiting for. So, I'm in NORFTA, you're in NORFTA, and being in NORFTA, as far as like writing something, it takes a lot of focus. You have to take something from a simple idea, a simple thought, and actually create something. Tell us about your first piece of art, your first book.
Well, here it is, brothers, for you, Resolute Climb from Homelessness to Everest. When I first wrote the book, it was BS.
Why you say that?
It was BS in that I didn't take responsibility for things that had happened in my own life.
Okay.
I didn't lie. When I did the first draft of the book, it wasn't like I lied or I made stuff up. However, when I read through it, I'm not taking any responsibility. I'm not taking any accountability. I'm not taking any ownership. I would make excuses.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the book. It was excuses, trying to make myself in the best light possible. And I read it and like, this is totally disingenuous. Copied the entire 175 pages.
Wow.
Delete.
Okay.
And I was just like, and for a second I was like, no, I can cancel out and just don't save. And I was like, no, save. And I was like, no, we're starting new.
Okay.
And in this book, I take ownership for everything. That's one of the things that always comes with a disclaimer that I hope this doesn't change your opinion of me, because I am brutally honest always around. So when I was because it took me a year and a half of doing, not full time, but part time, writing the original draft, and I wrote this book in probably 3 weeks.
Okay.
And it was easier in that, and the 3 weeks included the editing portion, because I wanted to make sure that it was readable. So I sent it to an editor. He redid it. Me and him had some very back and forth. It's like, well, you're pretty blunt in some of the stuff you say. And like, that's what happened.
Okay.
That's what happened. And it was like, so this is why this book came out so much easier than the original draft is, because I wasn't trying to I just wrote it.
Okay.
And it was very cathartic in that I was able to come to an understanding of my own self. So it was actually pretty easy because it was my story.
Yeah.
I knew what it was.
So with your book, you said that you take ownership of everything that happened. Is there like an incident that it's not 100% your fault, but you're taking credit for it? And the reason why I say that is because my first book, it was with me and my ex-wife. And instead of like showing her in a bad light, because I know she's the type of person, if I mention her name, she's gonna sue me for defamation. And I'm like, nah. So I switched her name and everything. So I wanted to know if like you took that approach to anything.
I don't mention, there were instances where, with people, but I don't mention them by name.
Okay.
There's also, a vast majority of reasons why I didn't. But at the same time, just even if it's 1% my fault, it's my fault.
Okay.
If so, for instance, I'll use an example of being on a podcast and I'm late for the podcast, and even though I left early and I made sure I had enough time, parking was an issue, blah blah. In the end, ultimately, it's still my fault. In the end, I take complete ownership. And once you start taking taking complete accountability for things that happen in life, not like in general, like in everything, but everything in your own life, your responsibilities. You don't have to point the finger that far to be like, it's my fault.
Okay, I understand that. Time management. How do you manage that with so many hats you wear?
I'm still trying to figure it out.
I feel you.
With that being said, it's a work in progress. For me, I prioritize against sleep, exercise, and me time, and that if I can't be in the office, and that's one of the benefits of being in the mediation position that I am, it's not like I just have carte blanche and do what I want, but if there are other people at court, and if I want to go, I can go. If I want to go into the office, if I want to work from home, hey, I can have my smartphone available while I'm hitting the weights at the gym, and I can answer a question, and I can maybe do a call to a potential client. In the end, I prioritize myself and taking care of myself, because if I can't take care of myself, I can't take care of other people. Now, the DUI program, that's more of a stringent, schedule that I have to adhere to. But in the end, one thing that I try to do is I developed a plan that I have a house in Mexico.
Okay.
But I also have a place here in San Diego, so it's like I know I got to be maybe early at the mediation or early at the court. I'll stay in San Diego. Now, if I have a little bit more time, I was like, I'm gonna spend out in the house in Mexico and just kind of chill, and and then I'll cross the border back. And so,
exactly. So time management, do you think that was a skill you was born with, like a trait you was born with, or that's something you learned with the military?
I would say the Marine Corps, because I mean, as in terms of the Marine Corps, if you have to be there at 06, if you're there at 06, you're late. You're there at 5:45. Guess what? You're semi-late. You're there at 5:30. All right, we'll let this slide. And it's like, so in the end, one of the things I developed is that mindset. If you're not early, you're late. Along with that, with the Marine Corps, I remember my dad when he got out of prison, he did a couple different jobs. The one job he did was a bartender, and he got me a job as a bar back.
Okay.
And I don't know how familiar you are with,
what's a bar back?
A bar back, basically everything that's downstairs,
Okay.
and the beer, and sodas, whatever, you got to bring it upstairs.
Okay.
Man, that is tough work. And my dad asked me on my first day I got there, and I worked, and it was cool. And afterwards, he asked me, "Did you get there on time?" And I said something like, I was very laissez-faire about it. I was very like relaxed about it. It's like, "Oh, I was 5 minutes late."
Okay.
And he looked at me like, my dad never hit me, but he looked like he wanted to give me a slap. He's like, "I got you that job, and you're 5 minutes late. You're embarrassing not only yourself, you're embarrassing me, you're embarrassing your name." Like, right. I don't know. It's like, hey, sorry. And again, one thing, my dad in the Marine Corps for sure.
Okay, that's dope. So, emotional connection. With what you do, has there ever been a client that told you their story or their life journey, and you was like, damn, they had it rough?
There's a lot of time in counseling, there's a term that's thrown around a lot, the day you meet yourself.
Okay.
And the day you meet yourself is where people share a story that's commensurate with your own story. And it's like, man, it's like we could have been, like, we lived the same life. And so there are a lot of times I do hear those difficult stories and I realize that in protecting confidentiality, I will say this, that there are a lot of stories that I hear that could have been my story. Right? Instead of overcoming those challenges of looking at certain types of abuse, looking at drug abuse, looking at emotional abuse, looking at homelessness. And instead of going the route that I took, which was college and the Marine Corps, and then eventually law school, and eventually now going for my doctorate and writing a book and doing everything that I'm doing, they chose a different path of murder, mayhem. And so whenever I take that into account, I always realize that could have been me. And so I don't want to say that I'm emotionally bankrupt when I hear these stories, but I can't, like, for instance, there was a story one individual was given where she was talking about her methamphetamine use, her stealing, her prostituting herself, and this wasn't that long ago, I nearly went into tears. But I had to bring it back because I can't help this person. I can give this person probably appropriate feedback and appropriate neutral, objective perspective if I'm balling with her.
Right.
And so it's one thing I have to keep that in check. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a big softy, man. I may come across as like this crass individual, man. I'm a crier, dude. And afterwards, I just had to do a little tear wipe and say a prayer, like, hey, God bless you. Hopefully you can get through this. And but yeah, those stories they happen all the time. They happen all the time.
Like, I know a lot of people that go through things like that, and like you want the best for them, and you hope the best for them, and it just, like you said, sometimes you just can't help. You just watch and pray that they find themselves.
Well, it's also one of the things I've discovered as being, I don't know if I'm a good counselor, a great counselor, or a bad counselor, depends on who you ask. One thing I've noticed is when you call people under stuff, and it's like, for instance, there's somebody who told me, like, have you done your self-help meetings, which are AA meetings? Oh yeah, I had them, but then the hood of my car flew up, and I was on the freeway. I had the paper, right? And I had the paper in my hands, and it flew out, and I was just like, so you had the paper in your hands while you're driving. Why? And it's like, well, I was going through some papers. So you're going down to 5, and then the hood just magically. It's like, listen, if you haven't done them, and I'm not Judge Judy. I'm not here to determine. But ultimately, if you don't do these, I can't get you through this program. I hear you. I just, but I was afraid you were going to be upset at me. And when have I ever yelled at you? What am I going to do? Am I going to beat you up? And so, exactly. And ultimately, if you can't be honest, if you're not going to be honest with me, that's fine. At least don't be honest. Be honest with yourself.
Right. Did you choose to help people, or do you feel like God and life put you in a position where you can't help people?
Wow, that's a good question. That's a good question. Ultimately, it depends on how far you really want to get into it. One thing I will say is this: is that through all the challenges in my life, God was there.
Okay.
And so, as much as I wanted to not do this, because I did it for a period of time, like, man, this doesn't pay, there's too much paperwork, my clients are dying on me, I'm not doing any good. I'm not cut out for this. All I'm trying to do is save my mother.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to save my mom. And this is one of the reasons why I engaged in certain behaviors with all women who are older. I'm a little bit older now, but even as I got older, I was still engaging in high-risk behaviors with women who were older, women who had multitude of problems, and what was I trying to do? I was trying to save my mom.
Right.
And so one of the things I discovered, like, wow, I'm just trying to save my mom from all this. But one thing that, if you don't believe you have a destiny, or you don't believe God doesn't have something for you, you probably don't.
Right.
And it's like, this is something that's God has chosen for me. As much as I try to avoid it, as much as I try to, it all brought me back here.
Right.
And so, good, bad, and different. This is where I'm at, and this is hopefully what my legacy will be somebody known for somebody who helped others and gave back to others of himself.
That's good. Is there any rewards in what you do?
When someone says, thank you for helping me save my life,
Right.
Thank you for, you planted one seed in my head where I decided to stop drinking, I decided to stop driving impaired, I decided to stop slanting. That is powerful.
Right.
And what's one of the things I do with my off the field stuff when talking with guys on an individual basis, when they go through a breakup, when they go through whatever challenge they may go through. And I've had a couple instances where it's like, hey, I was gonna engage in some high risk behaviors, I was gonna do some drugs, I was gonna kill myself, but hey, I saw your podcast, you were so open, and I was like, wow. This is like, and it's like, I was letting, and this is what I've heard is, I was letting the shame overcome me. And that's why I was so honest in this book, is that, there's no shame in what's happened to you, or what was done to you, but it's all about you have agency over what you do next.
Okay.
And so that's why I try to be able to give back, and to hear that, love it.
So back to the book. Speak to the viewers. Paint a vivid picture of where life has taken you and where you hope it takes you in the future.
Man, great questions. It's a hard thing when you're, even as an adult, not knowing where you're going, but when you're a child and you don't know where you're going to sleep that night, it's a really challenging perspective. And when I was going through things that I was going through, it wasn't with the objective of I can't wait to go through all this pain and challenge and heartbreak and disaster. So I look forward to being on Whidbee's podcast. This is not in the crystal ball, but going from homelessness to unpredictability, the chaotic upbringing, where I became an adult very, very quickly, to all the way experiencing Iraq, Afghanistan, in the Marine Corps, and then experiencing the challenge of law school, and then experiencing subsequent drug use and high-risk behaviors on my own part, and experiencing legal repercussions on my own part because of the decisions that I made. Nobody made them. Nobody did it to me. I gave certain things up.
Right.
And then ultimately there was, again, some legal issues that arose, and instead of doing what I wanted to do, which was engage in high-risk behaviors and potentially, all the way to the end, I was like, I'm going to Everest.
Okay.
And this is where I really, especially when I talk with guys, because the day of my court hearing, everything got resolved, and then didn't really quite work out the way I had hoped. And then one of my best friends, he's driving me to my car. He went with me to court, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, he wants to make sure I'm putting on a show. Oh yeah, I'm good, man. And I even asked him afterwards, like, "Did you think I was going to potentially maybe hurt myself or do some high risk behaviors?" He's like, "I had no idea. If I knew that, I would have stayed with you. I would have taken you to the hospital. I would have held your hand, whatever." I was putting on this show, man. Like, oh, good, dude. This is where, especially with men, we don't want to be. We want to be in a position of being an asset. Right? We don't want to be a burden on others. We want to be that person who's there for them. We don't want to be that burden for others. And I didn't want to be that burden for him, even though I was in so much pain.
Right.
And so I'm driving home, I'm like, I'm just gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and then to the end, maybe I'll finish it tonight.
Right.
Maybe tonight's my last one. I was like, let me not do that. Just today, let me not do that today. And that day I was, you know what, I'm going to Everest. I'm going to Mount Everest. And I paid for my expedition costs. I bought my ticket. I told my employer at the time, like, hey, I need 6 weeks off. And they were like, 6 weeks? And it's like, you know what? Mm-hmm. You're right. I hear you. I actually need 7 weeks. So I'm going to take a week. I need a week off to relax probably. Mm-hmm. And they were just, it's like, well, that's a lot of time. It's like, well, if that's the case, this is where you have to set yourself up as a priority. Right. You can't give it to others. And it's like, if that's too much to ask, I understand. We can part as friends. Right. And then I will work until my last possible day. I'll make sure everything is set up for the person incoming. Mm-hmm. And they're like, okay, we can't pay you. I'm like, I'm not asking you to pay me. It's fine. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I did. I went to India for a few days. And then I went to Nepal. Okay. And then I hiked to the base camp of Mount Everest. So this homeless kid who experienced so much is at the foot of the tallest mountain in the world, here in the Himalayas in Nepal. I'm looking at the tallest mountain in the world. I'm like, you know what? This is what life is about. It's about pushing yourself to what you can experience. So you're not defined by where you came from. Because I was, if you just look at it, you're just a kid who grew up in a broken home with a mother who was addicted to heroin, a father who went to prison, brothers went to prison. You should have gone to prison. Right. Why didn't you go to prison? And it's like, it's a miracle you didn't end up in prison. Yeah. Absolutely. One of the things is you're not defined by these things that have happened to you, but you know what? You can take that and have that resolute mindset and go on that resolute climb to be the best you that you can be. And that's why I always say, this mantra of mine, stacking wins to be the best you that you can be. Because you can be at rock bottom. Mm-hmm. Now the thing is, people don't understand, and people may agree or disagree with this. When you hit rock bottom, people think that you can't go any further down. Right. Mm-hmm. I was chipping away, man. I was doing my best to go a little bit further, but ultimately you can use that as a platform, not so much to go up right away, but you stack little wins that you eventually look back and it's like, I can't believe that's who I was.
So you mentioned stacking wins. Excuse me. Before we go, did you make it to the top?
To the top of Mount Everest? No. Now, after I got back from Iraq, I did get do Mount Kilimanjaro. Okay. That helped with the issues coming back from Iraq. So I made the top of Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, which is the tallest mountain in Africa. Now, Mount Everest, to get to the top of Mount It's like, we're talking like 50 G's, we're talking a lot more expenses, and a lot more time. So that is the ultimate goal. One day, again, I have 4 more years left on the mortgage, and once the mortgage is paid off, we're gonna make a go of it. Okay. And one of the things I do want to say is this: when I was about Everest, I think it's just important, is that to start the Everest expedition, you start from Kathmandu and you take a helicopter or plane to a place called Rukla. Rukla is where every expedition starts in the Himalayas. And I was looking around at all these people, and I'm a bigger guy, and these are thin individuals. These are like paper thin. They're tan. This is like, some of these people have been there like 6-7 times. One woman I spoke with had been to the top of Everest, and these negative self-talk came in. It's like, you're not them, dude. You're not these individuals. What are you doing? You're such a phony. And I was like, that's where you be careful. And that's what I want to relay to you and your viewers, is that be careful of that negative self-talk. But I was like, hey, stop it. And then, have that. And it's like, no, I belong here. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, I'm not them, but you know what? They're not me.
Right.
They're not me.
They're not
and so it's one of those things. So don't compare yourself to others. Just stack those little incremental wins, and again, be the best you that you can be.
Exactly. So I always close out the web series with a positive thought, something motivational. Let's leave the viewers with something that's going to inspire them.
I'm the definition of someone who's literally at the bottom. We all have childhoods that aren't ideal, that aren't the best. Don't define yourself by those things. Like going back to that story that I mentioned, as far as I don't belong here. This is not the right place to be. I don't belong on Whidbee's podcast. I can't believe this guy even asked me to be here. But in the end, ultimately, you belong. You have value, and you're not defined by the things that have happened, but you are defined by what you're doing to move forward. So if you keep relying on the past, man, you're not going to totally heal. But in the end, it's a Seneca quote: "Throw me to the wolves, so I can come back and lead them the pack."
Exactly. I like that. Well, this is Interest Free, episode 3, Mediating Life. I'm Whidbee. This is Mike Algeo. Thank you for being on my show. And we out. Haha.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Boy.
Yeah,